Good morning, subscribers. Here from beautiful Las Vegas, here to answer your questions on another Ask Mark. Thanks for sending them in. I appreciate you. Keep sending them in. You can leave your hashtag Ask Mark on the question so I make sure that you want me to answer them. Before we get into today's questions, just a couple of things. My audiobook, you can now get it. It is available. If you really like me and you really want to listen to my voice, you can do it for like 7 straight hours. Grab a copy of my audiobook. And my new breakup course, this is something I put a lot of time into. I actually filmed it or began filming it June last year. So it's been almost a year I've put into this. It is really a reflection of key learnings and what I did following my last breakup. How I handled it, how I dealt with the emotions, what it's like going through it as a man, and how you can apply those same strategies to your own life so that you can get through your breakup and make it your last breakup. That in fact happens to be the name of the course. So if you're interested in that, check it out. The link is in the description. Or if you just want free stuff and that's more your thing, I've got the 12 texts to make him yours, the sexting guide, and other cool stuff. So link in the description. Let's get to it. As I said, don't forget to leave your comment. The first question is from Shalimar. And Shalimar says, what do I do if he doesn't contact you often at the beginning of dating him and then comes back after a week or two? Shall we ask him why he disappeared or just be happy that he contacted us and not say anything? Yeah, just be happy that he contacted. Yeah, just don't say anything. No! Don't do that. If he is already flaky at the beginning of dating, then the dude's out of credit. Right? Now, if someone has given you a lot of months and then says, I need a week or two, I just need to focus on my own thing, I'm just really struggling with work stress, that would be one thing. But if someone's already shifty, as in they're already flaky and fluffy and you don't know if you're going to hear from them on and off at the beginning, what odds have you got of actually building something along the way? Now, you could call the person out. You don't necessarily have to ask him why he disappeared. I actually think that's a little bit pandering, but you can say something like, hey, look, it feels like you're not in a space right now to give this kind of your full effort and attention. And if that's the case, it's totally cool, but that's not really what I'm looking for. Over to you. You can let him know that subtly or bluntly, that you're not going to put up with that, and then let him make his decision. But beyond that, I'm not holding a lot of breath. If a woman did this to me and she's like already being flaky in the first couple of weeks, as I say, I might mention it and I'll probably call it out, but I'm not holding a lot of hope in that situation that it's going to come good. Maybe she really calls herself and maybe she's super self-reflective and says, you know what, you're right, I'm going to pick up my act, and then takes consistent action. But most of the time, the way dating starts is the way it's going to continue. Great question, I like it. Justine says, oh my God, Mark, you are so right. It's nuts. How did you become this aware? I bet your mum was a good influence. That wasn't even a question. Thank you, Justine. My mum was lovely. I learned lots from my mum, but also from my coaches, from my dad, from good influences around me. I think it's really, really important you filter your information. And honestly, the more I grow in my own journey, the more I realize who you listen to. Do they have the results that I want? And if not, why am I listening to them? Right? If someone's not practicing what they're preaching, then what are you doing? If someone's not empowering with you with their words, or if their words don't feel empowering to you, then again, what are you doing? Really important to choose your information sources carefully in this world. Listen to a good psychologist, get a coach, follow people that have the results that you want. All of that's so important. Kate says, lots of good data there from Dr. Marie. This is on the sex video, where we talked about a few different things. I think it was about what to do when he's having sex problems. She only mentioned 1/3 of women could orgasm during penetration. True statistic, I believe. If women are capable of orgasming from thoughts alone, is it possible that women could be orgasming more during penetration if the focus was changed? Look, I'm not a woman, so I can't ever speak to having a woman's body or being in a woman's body. I can only speak from a man's side of this. And my experience has been, both when I'm single, dating around, even sleeping around, and when I'm with a long-term committed partner, my experience has consistently been that if you show up for a woman, if you're present with her pleasure, and if you're really there, the vast majority of women, from my experience, are far more orgasmic than perhaps they believe. Do with that what you will. When being vulnerable, is it okay if you cry? That's from Killeen Ryan. Of course it is, Killeen. You know, I will say this, vulnerability, we often think it's always about crying and fear and exposing ourselves. And look, a lot of the time it is. But don't forget, there's also positive vulnerability. That is showing joy, showing passion, showing energy, showing life is also a form of vulnerability. So keep that in mind. We always think, oh, I don't want to be vulnerable on a first date, but passion and joy, that's a form of vulnerability. I think they're blowing leaves over there. I hope you all can still hear me. Yolanda says, hi Mark, what if men just want to talk sex and I don't? Then stop talking to them. Plain and simple. What you filter becomes your reality. If you don't want men who talk sex, then you must immediately filter men who talk sex. It's that simple. Maybe give one verbal warning and then stop talking to them. Just stop. You gotta filter. Peggy says, my question is, do you tell a guy, what do you tell a guy you've been dating a few months when he tells you he's into kinky things and wants to try some with me? Yes, no, more information. I don't want to overcomplicate that question. If you're into it, do it. If you're not, don't do it. If you don't know what he's talking about, get more information. This is from KW, bit of a longer one. Why does a guy in a long-term relationship suddenly one day out of the blue say he's not ready for a relationship? He even planned our future together. We moved in with each other approximately 3 months before we broke up with me, and he only lasted a week with me. I don't quite get what that means. He still texts me once every few weeks. Now it's 7 months on. I've already seen him on dating sites looking for a relationship. Why do guys suddenly up and leave but still want to know you? Saying they miss you, but never mention getting back together. It's really important. I think I talk about this in different ways in lots of videos, but it's really, really important to understand that men naturally tether. It does not make biological sense. It does not make emotional sense for men to fully disconnect from women that are into them, right? If we think evolutionary, where there's like 50 women in your whole tribe and 3 of them want your DNA, if you're a man, it doesn't make sense to push those women away, not entirely, because then you know they're going to go and find another man. It's selfish and it's kind of archaic. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's just the way men are. Like it or not, that's kind of the default setting. And this is why your boundaries are so important. Not just for you, so that you don't get tethered and dragged along 7 months later, but for the man as well. He needs your boundaries to step up, because human beings, we're designed to be lazy. We're designed to conserve energy. And when you put a man in lazy default mode, he will always tether the women that he used to date, because it feels unnatural to let go of a connection when she likes you. Like, why would you do that? You're killing seeding and breeding potential. So your boundaries matter in these situations. As for why he broke up, only he can truly answer that. The bottom line is, if he's not willing and able to build something with you, then he's not your guy. That sucks, but at least you know. Question for date night from Nancy. Nancy says, how to tastefully get the man I'm most interested in to get a move on. A man who is also 200 miles away, but wants to meet halfway. Mr. Slowburn has met me twice in 6 months and doesn't come after me. Thanks so much for bringing date night. Look, again, if you're a woman, basically, your time is valuable. Let's just call a spade a spade. Your time matters. You don't want to waste time on the wrong people, right? When you're dating long distance, this is especially relevant. I get women all the time who come to me and they say, Mark, he can't meet me for 9 months. He can't meet me for 6 months. Should I keep seeing him? Right? It's a gamble. It is a gamble. I've been long distance. I've done it for over a year. It was a gamble for my girlfriend too. So you've got to decide, is the gamble worth it? If I'm going to gamble this extraordinary amount of time, do I have the clear signs that this person is worth the gamble? Is this person consistently showing up? Is this person putting effort into me? When I'm vulnerable, do they reciprocate that vulnerability? Are they working on the relationship with me? Do they stick to a consistent date night every week? All of that information has to kind of filter in for you to decide if that gamble is worth it. And I'm going to tell you, most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, the women and men that come to me in these situations are doing it because their comfort zone is distance. It's like I can have this connection, I can have a friend, I can tick my loneliness box and not feel lonely from 200 miles away, and then just, oh yeah, I might see you in 9 months or so, yeah, whatever. And they just burn time and burn time and burn time. Right? The reason so many women waste so much time is they don't make clear decisions on situations like this. If the guy is not worth the gamble, cut him off. Right? Save your bandwidth for men in person who are emotionally available and challenge yourself to move towards the close relationship, both physically and emotionally, that you really want. Paige says, I'm looking for advice, or maybe something to watch or read, I like it. How do we spice things up again? We both work full time, we have a 2-year-old, we're always exhausted. Yes, we talk to each other, we kiss goodnight, but I always feel like I will let him down as I am exhausted and work almost 6 days a week. To be honest, it sounds like your lives are fucked. Right? When do you actually make time for the couple? Do you make time for exercise? You clearly make time for work. Health, wealth, relationships. You're so out of balance in the way you're carving your time. You got to change that shit. Of course, if you're always exhausted and you're not making time, your relationship's going to suck. You go to the health gym, you carve out an hour every day, or maybe 5 days a week, or maybe you don't and feel like you should, but you know that if you carve out time for your health is going to improve. You've got to carve out time for your relationship as well, or your relationship's going to suck. If you guys aren't prioritizing it, there's not much more I can say other than you both have to figure out a way to prioritize it and have time together. Now, there's some situations where I'd even say you can use more space, but I don't think this is one of them. This is one of those ones where, yeah, literally you guys just making a priority is going to make the difference here. So stick to original answer. Teresa says, what about the kids? Mornings don't work because they wake up so damn early. Evenings sometimes work, isn't exhausted or has to get up early. I try to be spontaneous or buy fun lingerie. Yes, a weekend getaways are fun, but what about the rest of the months of the year? Yes, honestly, same answer, Teresa. You guys have got shitty habits when it comes to carving out time. This can be a function of the man who's comfortable working all the time and always serving others, and the woman who's comfortable being an overgiver. You all got to carve out clear time for each other. It's pretty much that simple. Goodness says, please, can someone tell me what to do? My man does not last a minute in bed since I got married. I've never enjoyed sex. Please, what will I do? I don't want to cheat on my husband. Oh boy. I'm no expert on premature ejaculation. I can't really speak to that physiologically. What I can say is, for everyone watching, this is a great example of what happens when problems go unaddressed. Why are you marrying someone when the sex sucks? Especially without bringing it up and talking about it. Who can live like that? Very few. Maybe a Buddhist monk. They're the only people that can live like that with no or sucky sex. Everyone else, that's going to crash the relationship, and you'll know it. So you got to bring this up with him. You didn't bring it up before you got married, now you got to bring it up. This is a deal breaker problem for you. You're literally saying, I'm going to go cheat on my husband soon. He needs to know that. Not from a place of threat, but he needs to know the serious of it. Maybe that'll kick his butt into gear. Or maybe he says, you know what, I have no interest in improving that, so you all can end the marriage or open it. But at least that way the problem gets resolved. Because right now, someone's going to get really hurt, and it's because the problem's not being addressed. Janie says, okay, I'm here because I'm confused. I've been single for 4.5 years. I haven't had sex or made love to anyone in that time. I meet guys, some are respectful and some are not. I want someone to meet and get to know. Let love grow by hanging out. I don't want sex. I'm afraid of being used. Is that wrong of me? It's not wrong of you. Definitely not. But I will say this. If you've kept yourself out of the game for 4.5 years, then you've got fear. You've got fear around emotional intimacy, and it sounds like also fear around sexual intimacy. So I'd be working with a coach or a therapist, if you prefer, to tackle that, right? This fear around being used, maybe you've been used in the past, maybe there's some trauma to clear there. You're not coming from a sexually empowered mindset here, if you want me to be really honest. Sex should be something you enjoy for you, on your terms. But I think the fear of being used here, as well as the fear of generalized intimacy, which if you've gone 4.5 years, you definitely have. Humans aren't designed to live like that. That's combining to you feeling very lonely here. So you might be able to do this on your own, but I recommend working with someone, because you're going to have to push yourself into your fears and clear out whatever those fears are, or at least step through them. Rezo says, question, is it common for a man who is deeply into a relationship to pull back occasionally? I thought it might be fear of getting hurt or slow things down. What do you think? It certainly can be if he's got an avoidant attachment style. You've got to take the overall picture of his, I mean, is he pulling away one day out of a 365-day year? I'm sure that even secure guys do that or feel trapped at some point. Or is he pulling away 50% of the time? That's a problem, right? Speak to him about this. Say, hey, this is something I noticed. You know, do you ever feel like your freedom's restricted from this? How can I support you in that? Or how can I give you more freedom when that happens? You know, get him to open up about it, to see what's on his mind. And if you show you genuinely want to hear, a guy will usually come to the party because you're not coming with your own agenda, you're being curious about him. So, yeah, address it, bring it up, and I think you'll get some clarity around that. Hopefully that helps you, Rezo. Nikki has a question for you. This is a great video. This is how to understand men. Made me wonder though, what are men really thinking when they give you the comment, it's not you, it's me? Love to hear your thoughts. Look, I hate this line. It's a bit of a cop-out line. It basically is just saying, this doesn't work. You can't read much more into it than that. It could genuinely be a guy who's like, oh, this girl's like too wife material and I don't want to get too close to someone right now because my ex hurt me. Could be a guy who finds you unattractive or has noticed something unattractive. Could be a guy who, as I said, doesn't want to tell you the truth. Could be a guy who's literally just like, I'm not in a position, and that could be a conscious thing or an unconscious thing. The bottom line is there's a block there. And everyone's going to have blocks to intimacy to some degree, or fears around intimacy. It's not really whether or not there's a block present, it's just, is the person willing and able to work through it? Are they showing up with their actions that they want to work through this block? And if the answer is no, because he says something like, it's not you, it's me, that's all the information you need. I think we spend far too much time trying to unpack the why. And that's just because we were all kids once, and we all have that habit as kids. Our only solution as kids is to unpack the why. This person doesn't love me. I'm not receiving the love or affection or connection that I want. I need to figure out why so I can change my behavior and change them. That's child thinking, right? Because the only solution we have is to adapt ourselves to try to get the love that we're craving. But as an adult, it doesn't make sense. All you can do as an adult is say, this is the result, this is the bottom line, this is what I need to do next. Maybe it's about you, maybe it's about him, maybe it's just a combination of compatibility or attraction. It really doesn't matter. The bottom line is if someone's saying, I have a block that I'm unwilling or unable to work through, that's what you act on. Who's this from? Anonymous says, I was hoping to get a few tips on what I should do on a first date this Thursday to get a second date. The guy's quite masculine and has commented that he likes my fun and light personality. He also likes the following traits in a woman: smart, substance, charisma, not intimidating, but I'm smart. We've noted that we're different, but he said he's looking to exploring that. So the best thing you can do is take your focus off what he's looking for and bring it to what you're looking for. Because that's what, focusing on what he's looking for, you're already putting him on a pedestal, saying he's great, he's amazing, I want him. Meanwhile, he's deciding, do I want her? You got to be thinking, do I even want him? If you're already sold on a guy on the first date, you need to raise your standards. You need to have bigger hoops for him to jump through to convince you that he would make boyfriend material. Because he's going to feel those hoops, not in a gamey way, but I use this as an example. You know, if I go on a date with a woman, we have a great first date, 10 out of 10, she's a 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10 on a first date means 10 out of 100 overall, right? So even if someone's really impressive, it's like, I still don't know them from a bar of soap. Not really. We might have a good connection. She might be really sexy, but I don't know if she's going to respect me when she's stressed. I don't know if she has odd habits. I don't know how she acts when sort of the lights and cameras of the first date aren't on. You don't know any of that. So keep that in mind when you're on a first date. That's number one. Have your own standards really clear. And number two is enjoy the date for you. You need to be able to have fun in your own energy. Too many men and women show up to dating expecting the other person to be the source of their fun. It's needy, and it means you're basically a victim of the other person. If they're fun, I'll have fun. If they're not fun, I'm going to have fun. None of that. If I'm going on a date, I want to have fun if I'm with someone as boring as a deaf monkey, right? You want to set up your dating and you want to have fun where you can enjoy yourself no matter who you're with. When you have that kind of energy, where the guy can come to you for that energy, he is going to love it. He's going to have a blast with you, and he's going to want a second date for sure. So be the source of the fun on the date. Entertain yourself, and the guy will want to come along with you. Connie says, here's a question in a relationship. If your partner can go 2 to 3 days without contacting you by calling or just a text check-in, I see that as he's not thinking of you. If as a woman you feel you give you 100%, he's saying the right things but doesn't follow through, is he wasting your time? Well, here's what I'd say to this. Number one, you want to check in. I actually had my long distance partner do this with me. She said to me, when I don't hear from you, I perceive that you're not thinking of me. Is that the case? And it wasn't the case, as it turned out. But because she raised the question, she got the answer. So you can make that statement. I do personally believe that it's important for couples to have some contact wherever possible every day. Obviously, there'll be exceptions. He's away on work. He says, hey, I'm not going to have a phone for 5 days, all of that. Right? But most connected, securely connected couples are going to want to talk in some form virtually every day. That's my belief as it comes to couples. So I would have that as kind of a background frame. If you agree with that, have that as your background frame, but then check in with him. It seems like he's more avoidant leaning, and it seems like he's kind of in his comfort zone, only talking to you once every 2 to 3 days. If that's not your comfort zone, then you've got to shift that and put a boundary around that and see if he is willing and able and wanting to do that with you. If he's not, that's okay. He's probably not your guy. Nioosha says, why is sex chat so important for some guys? Well, this is kind of that complaint, right? Guys online, why do they text sex all the time? Why do they do it? Because it's the lowest common denominator and most men are sexually starved, right? Unfortunately, when you're texting, you just don't have the same social boundaries that you do if you meet someone, say, at a networking event, at a bar. At those events, you just can't come up and start talking sex. The social context doesn't give you a wall to hide behind to do that. Texting gives guys a wall to hide behind. It gives a sense of anonymity, it gives a suit of armor, so their deeper impulses and urges, they're no longer bound by the social restrictions of the situation. So they need a different set of boundaries. They need your boundaries. It's nothing personal. It doesn't mean a guy just sees you as sex. All it means is that men are slipping into what is lazier, what is easier, because that's the natural human instinct, right? Women do it too, just in different ways. But for guys, this is one of their natural laziness instincts. So because the social boundaries of an in-person event aren't there, you need to set your own boundaries if you don't want that behavior. This is why even texting upskills us. It makes us better, more socially intuitive people. There's a lot of growth in texting and in learning to filter even online. Chona, second last question, says, Mark, why is the man I'm meeting still on dating apps? The question I would ask is he on the apps or is he using the apps? Big difference there. If he's using the apps, you've got a problem. If he's just on the apps, I mean, I still have the dating apps on my phone because I have a wooden bird on my Tinder profile. It's as in, I'm not in the photo, it's just a wooden bird. So there's weird circumstances like that. If you're unsure, just ask. If you get a dodgy answer, move away from that person. Last question is from Rosa, and Rosa says, how can a gal ask a man for an STD test without feeling weird? Rosa, there's really no way to do this without feeling weird, if you want me to be totally honest. With sex, you've got to decide your risk tolerance. The only way to guarantee you will not get an STI is to not have sex. That's it. That's the only way. Abstinence is the only guarantee, right? If you don't want to be abstinent, then you've got to decide how much risk you're willing to take. Even asking for an STI test is not no risk, because he could have had that test from 2 days ago and slept with someone last night. So if you're more on the, I don't want to tolerate much risk, you can ask for an STI test. I would bring it up sooner. If you're that kind of person, you probably had a few dates, and there'd be an opportunity for you to say something like, yeah, you know, I'm just the kind of girl that I always date exclusively. I know that's not for everyone, but that's more my thing. And yeah, I guess I'm pretty conservative. You know, if I'm going to sleep with someone, I prefer that we've done our sexual health checks and done tests and that sort of stuff. So I know not everyone's like that. I respect women who aren't, but you know, that's just kind of my way of doing things. If you want to ask for a test, you want to be dropping a line like that somewhere on your first 3 dates, because that will set the guy up so it's not weird in the bedroom. Beyond that, you've got to decide your level of risk. For some people, if you want to have more sexual adventures, there's really no way to do that, and always ask for tests. Visual inspection, condoms, that's your best bet, and you're going to be still low risk. But as I say, I know people who have slept with hundreds of people and are totally clean. I know people that have had 4 partners or even 1 partner, and their partner's cheated and they've caught an STI. So there's no way to prevent the risk entirely. All I'll say is you've got to decide what your level of risk is versus the sexual buckets that you want to tick, that you want to kick before the end of your life. You've got to decide where your risk tolerance is and then go with that. Mark Manson actually did a really good article on STIs which talks about how a lot of them are overblown, and without sexual health still incredibly important, but I will also say I think there's a stigma that needs to be let go of around some of this stuff. So I'll pop a link to that article in the description too. Overall, decide your risk tolerance, and then based on that you'll be able to have the appropriate conversation with the guy. That is Ask Mark. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget my audiobook is now available. You can listen to me for 7 straight hours if you really like me. How fun. Leave your question with the hashtag AskMark in the comment section below. And don't forget as well my breakup course, new breakup course, Your Last Breakup. If you're going through a breakup right now and you want it to be your last, I built this course for you. It took me over a year. Lots and lots of work went into it. So check it out. Link in the description. Free stuff as well. Don't forget, hit the like button. And I'll see you in the next video very soon.